At my sister's engagement party, my mom suddenly stood up and yelled, demanding I cancel my own wedding and hand over $50,000 to pay for my sister's. When I firmly said no, she lost it, grabbed a coffee cup and threw hot coffee in my face. I screamed in pain. That's when my fiancé walked in and revealed who I really was. My mom was so stunned, she fainted on the spot because this story, it's a hard one to tell, but it's about a moment that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family, only to reveal a truth more shocking than I could have ever imagined. I mean, who expects their own mother to throw scalding hot coffee in their face at a family party? Yeah, that happened. And what came next? That's where things really got wild. I'm Rebecca, 28, a finance executive, and I was engaged to Aaron, this brilliant tech entrepreneur. On paper, my life was perfectly, beautifully planned. But life, as I learned at my sister Madison's engagement party, rarely sticks to the script. The coffee hit me like a physical blow, but the emotional trauma? That was the real pain. And then Aaron walked in, and the truth about who I really was, a truth I'd kept hidden for years, just exploded. Growing up in our modest, split-level house on the north side of Chicago was anything but picture-perfect. My dad, Thomas, was full of good intentions, always promising to repaint our faded blue siding, but he never did. That was Dad, good-hearted but lacking follow-through, especially when it came to standing up to my mother, Catherine. Mom was the undisputed queen of our household. Perfectly styled hair, manicured nails, she maintained this image of suburban perfection while micromanaging every single aspect of our lives. She'd come from nothing, the daughter of factory workers, and she had this insatiable hunger for status, for material things. Dad's stable accounting job gave her a comfortable life, but it was never, ever enough. Then there was Madison, my younger sister. 3 years my junior, and perpetually, undeniably, the golden child. While I inherited Mom's sharp features and analytical mind, Madison got Dad's gentle blue eyes and easygoing nature. From the moment she was born, Madison could do no wrong in Mom's eyes. Rebecca, why can't you be more like your sister, became the constant soundtrack of my childhood. It didn't matter that I was the one with straight A's and perfect attendance. Madison just floated through life with AC average and a social calendar packed with friends. When I joined the debate team and stayed late, Mom complained about driving me home. When Madison joined cheerleading, Mom became the team mom, never missing a game. I learned early, approval in our house was conditional, and the conditions for me were always shifting, while for Madison, they were effortlessly achievable. So, I stopped seeking approval. I started planning my escape. College applications became my secret lifeline. Mom pushed for community college to save money, but I applied to top universities behind her back. When the acceptance letters poured in, including one with a partial scholarship to Northwestern, the explosion was nuclear. Who's going to pay for this? Mom demanded, waving my acceptance letter like a weapon. We've been saving for Madison's education. That was the first time I truly understood how uneven the playing field was. The money was always for Madison. I was expected to make do. But it was also the first time I stood my ground. I'll pay for it myself, I declared, ignoring the pit in my stomach. And I did. Through scholarships, student loans, and 3 part-time jobs, I put myself through Northwestern, earning my degree in finance. Those years were brutal, barely any sleep between classes, work, and studying. But they taught me self-reliance. While my classmates partied, I waited tables at an upscale restaurant, making valuable connections with business executives who became my first mentors. Throughout those challenging years, my Grandma Clara was my rock. Unlike my mother, Grandma Clara valued education and independence. She'd been a bookkeeper in an era when few women had careers, and she saw that same drive in me. You remind me of myself, she'd tell me on our Sunday calls. Don't let anyone clip your wings, Rebecca. When Grandma Clara passed away during my senior year, I was devastated. The small inheritance she left me came with a letter, for your future, whatever you decide that should be. Your dreams are worthy of investment. That $75,000 became the foundation of my financial independence, a secret nest egg I never told my family about. It wasn't enough to pay off my student loans, but it gave me breathing room, allowing me to make strategic career moves instead of desperate ones. After graduation, while Madison dropped out of community college to find herself, I landed an entry-level position at a prestigious financial firm downtown. Mom's response? Typically underwhelming. Well, at least you'll have stable benefits. What she didn't know was that I'd negotiated a salary above the standard offer, secured performance-based bonuses, and had a 5-year career plan that I fully intended to exceed. While Madison cycled through retail jobs and relied on our parents for rent, I was building something sustainable. The tension with my mother grew with my independence. Every achievement was met with a backhanded compliment. That promotion is nice, but when are you going to find a husband? Or a condo downtown? Isn't that area dangerous? But the real friction came from her increasing expectations that I should help out with Madison's expenses. First, it was small things like covering Madison's phone bill. Then, it escalated to larger requests like co-signing for Madison's car loan. "She's your sister," Mom would say, as if that relationship obligated me to financial responsibility for a grown woman's choices. I loved my sister, despite our differences. But I was starting to resent being treated like an ATM with a familial obligation fee. Little did I know, these small requests were just the beginning of a pattern that would eventually explode in my face. Quite literally. 6 years after graduation, my career had taken off in ways even I hadn't anticipated. Through strategic moves and a reputation for financial acumen, I'd risen to become a senior financial advisor at Blackwell Partners, managing portfolios for high-net-worth clients. My office overlooked Lake Michigan, a daily reminder of how far I'd come from that faded blue split level. It was at a charity gala for financial literacy that I met Aaron. Tall, dark curly hair, intelligent brown eyes. He caught my attention not with flashy displays of wealth, but with thoughtful questions about the foundation's impact. Aaron had built a successful tech security company from his college dorm room, selling it for 8 figures before starting a new venture in sustainable technology. Like me, he had clawed his way up from modest beginnings through sheer determination. "Most people at these events just write checks for the tax benefits," he told me over champagne. "You actually seem to care about the program." 2 years of dating confirmed it. Aaron and I shared core values about money, family, and purpose. We both believed in living comfortably but not extravagantly, in using our resources to create security but also to make a difference. When he proposed on a quiet morning hike, rather than with some elaborate public spectacle, I knew I'd found my partner. Our wedding plans reflected our personalities. We chose a historic lighthouse on the Maine coast, with accommodations for 50 close friends and family. The budget was $40,000, enough to cover everything from travel for immediate family to the reception dinner. It wasn't lavish by wealthy standards, but it was meaningful and exactly what we wanted. "We could just elope and donate the money instead," Aaron suggested, half joking. "My mother would never forgive me," I replied, though the idea was tempting. Catherine's reaction to our engagement had been predictably underwhelming. "Well, at least someone wants to marry you at your age," she said, examining my simple emerald engagement ring with thinly veiled disappointment. Dad offered awkward congratulations, while Madison immediately launched into questions about the bachelorette party she assumed she'd be planning. In the months following our engagement, my mother's calls increased, always circling back to financial matters. "Madison has met someone special," she hinted. "They might be getting serious. Wouldn't it be nice if the family could help them get established?" "Mom, I'm planning my own wedding right now," I reminded her during one such call. "And Aaron and I are buying a house. I don't have extra funds to give away." "Family helps family," she replied, her guilt trip skills honed over decades. Aaron noticed my tension after these calls. "You know you don't have to solve everyone's problems, right?" he said, massaging my shoulders one evening. "Your financial success doesn't make you responsible for bailing out your sister." My therapist, Jillian, whom I'd started seeing to work through my family issues, had similar advice. "Boundaries are healthy," she reminded me. "Saying no doesn't make you a bad daughter or sister." Intellectually, I understood this. Emotionally, the programming ran deep. Every time I set a boundary, the guilt my mother had installed like malware in my psyche would activate. Was I being selfish? Was financial support the price of family connection? My best friend, Alicia, had no such confusion. "Your family is toxic," she declared over lunch a month before Madison's engagement party. "Especially your mother. She treats you like a backup plan for all her failures with Madison." "That's harsh," I said, though part of me recognized the truth. "And this engagement party is going to be a disaster," Alicia continued, stabbing at her salad. "Madison dating this out-of-work actor for 6 months, and suddenly they're engaged? Your mother planning some extravagant party? It's a setup, Rebecca. They're going to hit you up for money. Mark my words." I sighed, turning my wedding ring around my finger. "Maybe, but I have to go. They're still my family." "Then take Aaron," Alicia insisted. "Don't face them alone." I nodded, though I knew Aaron had an important investor meeting that weekend. "I'll be fine. I'm a grown woman who can say no to her mother." Alicia's skeptical expression spoke volumes. "Just promise me you'll leave if it gets bad. Your mental health matters more than keeping the peace." "I promise," I said, with more confidence than I felt. What I didn't tell Alicia, or anyone, was that I'd been having nightmares about the party. In my dreams, I was always trapped in my childhood home, rooms shrinking around me, my mother's voice getting louder until I woke up gasping for air. 6 months away from my own wedding, I should have been excited about cake tastings and honeymoon plans. Instead, I was dreading a weekend with my family, feeling like that uncertain teenager again instead of the accomplished woman I'd become. Aaron kissed me goodbye the morning I left. "Call me if you need reinforcements," he said. "I can be there in 3 hours if this meeting wraps up early." "I've got this," I assured him and myself. "It's just one weekend." I had no idea then how wrong I was, or how that weekend would permanently alter my family dynamics in ways I couldn't imagine. Madison's whirlwind romance with Bradley had been the main topic of family conversations for months. According to my mother's breathless updates, Bradley was everything Madison deserved: handsome, charming, and from a good family, which I knew was code for wealthy. The fact that he was an unemployed, aspiring actor living off his trust fund while waiting for his big break was conveniently minimized. "They just connected instantly," Mom gushed. "It's like they were meant to be." 6 months later, Bradley had proposed with what Mom described as the most gorgeous diamond you've ever seen. And Madison had immediately called dibs on a June wedding at the Lakeside Gardens, the most exclusive venue in Chicago. "Isn't that where the governor's daughter got married?" I asked, mentally calculating the astronomical cost. "Nothing but the best for Madison's special day," Mom replied. I spent the week before the engagement party carefully selecting an outfit and gift. The dress was navy blue, conservative enough for family, but still flattering. For their gift, I chose a high-quality wine decanter set, appropriate for an engagement without being overly extravagant. Aaron and I had agreed on a $200 limit, reasonable for a couple we'd be buying a wedding gift for in less than a year. The drive to my parents' suburban home that Friday afternoon was filled with pep talks to myself. Set boundaries. Don't engage with manipulation. Celebrate Madison, but protect yourself. The familiar neighborhood brought mixed emotions. Nostalgia mingled with old resentments I thought I'd processed. Dad greeted me with an awkward hug when I arrived. "Good to see you, kiddo," he said, taking my overnight bag. "Your mother's been cooking up a storm." The house smelled like my childhood, cinnamon and lemon cleaner, but looked different. New furniture, freshly painted walls, updated kitchen appliances. I wondered briefly about the cost of these renovations, knowing my father's modest salary and my mother's lack of employment. Madison squealed when she saw me, rushing down the stairs in a flutter of blonde hair and expensive perfume. "Becca, you're here." She enveloped me in a hug that felt genuine despite our complicated relationship. "Wait till you meet Bradley. He's amazing." Amazing Bradley was suspiciously absent, caught up with some industry people, according to Madison, who didn't seem concerned that her fiancé was missing the family dinner. Dinner was tense, with Mom peppering me with questions about my wedding plans while pointedly commenting on how Madison deserved the wedding of her dreams. Dad remained mostly silent, his usual conflict avoidance strategy in full effect. After dinner, while helping with dishes, I overheard a heated conversation between Madison and Mom in the pantry. "But you said they'd help with the costs." Madison's voice was whiny, childlike. "They will," Mom assured her. "Bradley's parents are just having temporary cash flow issues. The money will come through, but we've already put deposits down on everything. The venue needs the next payment in 2 weeks. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. We have options." The way she said options sent a chill down my spine, confirming Alicia's warning. Later that evening, as extended family began arriving, I found myself cornered by Aunt Patricia, my mother's sister, equally adept at backhanded compliments. "Rebecca, still working that corporate job? No time for family or children? Well, I suppose someone has to pay the bills." She laughed at her own joke while I forced a smile. My cousin Diana rescued me, pulling me aside with a genuine hug. "Ignore Mom," she whispered. "Some of us are actually proud of you." As more relatives arrived, I retreated to the guest room to decompress. My phone buzzed with a text from Aaron. "Meeting running late. Might not make it until tomorrow morning. You okay?" I typed back, "Surviving. Miss you. Come rescue me. ASAP." His response was immediate, knight in shining armor mode. "Activated for tomorrow. Love you." Saturday morning brought chaos as caterers and decorators transformed the backyard into a Pinterest-worthy engagement celebration. Mom directed the proceedings like a general while Madison flitted around taking selfies. I helped where I could, setting up gift tables and arranging flowers. Bradley finally made his appearance around noon, greeting me with a too-tight hug and a Hollywood smile. "The famous Sister Madison talks about you constantly." Something in his tone made me uneasy, as did his wandering eyes that assessed my jewelry and watch with too much interest. As guests began arriving, I was introduced to Bradley's friends, a group of similarly unemployed but expensively dressed young men who made concerning jokes about marrying up and finding a sugar mama. "Bradley hit the jackpot with your family," one of them confided after several drinks. He was getting desperate with all his bills piling up. My stomach tightened. But before I could ask for clarification, Madison whisked me away to meet Bradley's parents, who were noticeably tense and less enthusiastic than one might expect. "Lovely to meet you," Mrs. Norton said stiffly. "Madison speaks highly of your financial acumen." The comment struck me as odd, but I had no time to dwell on it as Mom appeared, insisting I help with some last-minute arrangements. In the kitchen, surrounded by caterers preparing appetizers, Mom handed me a glass of wine. Everything needs to be perfect today, she said, straightening my necklace. The Nortons are very particular. They seem nice, I lied, taking a sip. They're old money, Mom said, lowering her voice. But between us, they're having some financial difficulties. Bradley's trust fund isn't what it used to be. There it was. The opening salvo in what I suspected would be a campaign to enlist my financial support. I changed the subject quickly, asking about the party schedule. As guests filled the backyard, my anxiety grew. Aaron texted that his meeting had finished, but he'd hit traffic and would be delayed another hour. I found myself retreating to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face and practicing the breathing techniques Jillian had taught me. You're a successful, independent woman, I told my reflection. You can handle one engagement party. But as I rejoined the celebration, watching Madison twirl in her designer dress while my mother beamed beside her, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong. The backyard had been transformed into a scene worthy of a bridal magazine. White roses and hydrangeas adorned every surface. Crystal glasses caught the afternoon sunlight and a string quartet played softly in the corner. My mother had outdone herself, creating an atmosphere of elegance that must have cost thousands. At precisely 3 p.m., Madison and Bradley made their official entrance, though they'd been mingling with guests all afternoon. Madison wore a blush pink dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, while Bradley looked like he'd stepped out of a men's fashion editorial. Everyone, Madison announced, her voice carrying across the lawn. Bradley and I have the most exciting news about our wedding plans. The crowd gathered closer as Madison detailed their vision: a June wedding at Lakeside Gardens, a 7-tier cake from celebrity baker Francois Dubois, a designer gown custom-made in Paris, and a 3-week honeymoon in the Maldives. With each extravagant detail, my stomach knotted tighter. This wasn't a wedding plan, it was a financial disaster in the making. We're so blessed to have such supportive families, Madison concluded, looking pointedly at me, people who understand that investing in our special day is investing in our future happiness. Mom stepped forward with a champagne flute. To Madison and Bradley, she toasted. May all your dreams come true, with a little help from those who love you most. The guests raised their glasses, oblivious to the undercurrent of expectation. I sipped my champagne, already planning my exit strategy. Perhaps I could claim a work emergency. But before I could make my escape, Mom cornered me by the dessert table. Rebecca, darling, can we chat privately for a moment? Family matter. Against my better judgment, I followed her into the house and into my father's study, where she closed the door behind us. Isn't this wonderful? She began, gesturing toward the window overlooking the celebration. Madison has found her perfect match. It's a lovely party, I agreed cautiously. About the wedding, she continued, adjusting a photo of Madison on the bookshelf. The Nortons have had some unexpected financial setbacks. Nothing serious, just temporary liquidity issues. There it was. I remained silent, waiting for the inevitable ask. Madison's heart is set on this wedding. She deserves everything she's dreamed of. Mom turned to face me, her expression a practiced blend of maternal concern and expectation. We thought, given your position and success, you might want to help make your sister's dreams come true. Mom, I'm planning my own wedding, I reminded her. Aaron and I have budgeted carefully for it. Yes, but you two are so practical, she said, waving dismissively. Your little lighthouse ceremony can easily be postponed. Madison and Bradley need a proper start to their life together. The casual dismissal of my own plan stung, but I kept my voice level. How much are you asking for? Mom brightened, sensing victory. Just $50,000 for now. Possibly a bit more later for the honeymoon. The amount hit me like a physical blow. $50,000? Well, yes, but you and Aaron can afford it. You both have such good jobs. Her tone suggested this made the request perfectly reasonable. No, I said firmly. I'm not giving Madison $50,000 for a wedding that's beyond her means. It's financially irresponsible and unfair to ask me. Mom's expression hardened. After everything we've done for you. All the sacrifices. What sacrifices, Mom? I put myself through college. I built my career without help. I've been financially independent since I was 18. We gave you a home, stability, opportunities. Basic parental responsibilities aren't special favors that require repayment, I countered, my therapist's words flowing through me. Mom's face flushed with anger. You've always been selfish, Rebecca. Always thinking only of yourself. Your sister needs help, and you're too busy counting your money to care about family. This isn't about caring for family, I said, moving toward the door. It's about enabling poor financial decisions. I love Madison, but I won't fund a wedding she can't afford. Mom followed me, her voice rising. So that's it? You let your sister's dreams be crushed because you're too selfish to share your good fortune. Her dreams aren't my financial responsibility, I said, stepping into the hallway where several guests had gathered, attracted by our raised voices. Mom stormed after me, past the concerned onlookers, and back to the main party area. Everyone, she called out, drawing attention. My daughter, the big executive, has something to share. The party fell silent, all eyes turning toward us. Madison hurried over, confusion on her face. Mom, what's going on? Your sister, Mom announced loudly, has decided that her money is more important than your happiness. She refuses to help with your wedding. Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Madison's expression crumpled into hurt. Rebecca, is that true? I felt trapped, humiliated. Madison, we can talk about this privately. There's nothing to talk about. Mom interjected. She has the money. She simply doesn't want to share it after everything this family has done for her. That's not fair, I said, my voice shaking despite my efforts to stay calm. I have my own wedding to pay for, my own future to consider. Your own. Your own. Always your own. Mom's voice rose hysterically. You'd let your sister's wedding be ruined because you're too selfish to postpone your plans. The guests watched in horrified fascination. Dad stood frozen, unable or unwilling to intervene. Bradley hovered near Madison, his expression more calculating than concerned. I'm not discussing this here, I said firmly, trying to end the public spectacle. That's when something in my mother snapped. Her face contorted with rage. She lunged toward the refreshment table, grabbed a cup of coffee, and before anyone could react, threw the contents directly in my face. The hot liquid hit my skin like fire. I screamed, more from shock than pain, though the pain followed instantly. Coffee soaked my dress, my hair, burning my cheeks and neck. Through the blur of tears, I saw Madison's hand over her mouth, Bradley's widened eyes, the horrified expressions of the guests. Now look what you made me do. Mom shrieked, as if I had somehow forced her hand. You've ruined everything, just like always. I stood there, dripping and humiliated, unable to process what had just happened. Someone handed me a napkin. Someone else guided me toward a chair. Through the chaos, I heard Madison's voice, not comforting me, but complaining, Mom, everyone's leaving. You've ruined my engagement party. That's when the front door opened, and Aaron walked in. He took in the scene in an instant, me sitting, coffee-stained, tears streaming down my face, napkins pressed against my reddened skin, my mother standing defiant, yet somehow playing the victim. Madison oscillating between concern for her party and half-hearted concern for me, and the guests awkwardly witnessing this family implosion. Rebecca, he rushed to my side, gently examining my face. What happened? Are you okay? Before I could answer, Mom stepped forward, instantly switching to her charming social persona. Aaron, so glad you could join us. Just a little family disagreement that got out of hand. Rebecca was being difficult about helping with Madison's wedding, and I'm afraid I lost my temper. Aaron's expression darkened as he looked from my mother to my coffee-soaked dress. You threw hot coffee at your daughter because she wouldn't give you money? It wasn't like that. Mom backpedaled. It was an accident. In the heat of the moment. Rebecca knows how important Madison's wedding is to this family. Aaron helped me to my feet, his arm protectively around my shoulders. I think Rebecca needs medical attention. Those burns need to be treated. Don't be dramatic, Mom said dismissively. It wasn't that hot. Something in Aaron snapped. I'd never seen his normally calm demeanor transform like this. His voice took on an edge I'd never heard before. Mrs. Mitchell, he said, addressing my mother formally, I've heard a lot about your family dynamics over the past 2 years. I've heard how Rebecca put herself through college while you saved for Madison's education. I've heard how you constantly diminish Rebecca's achievements while celebrating Madison's smallest efforts. Mom's face flushed. That's not true. We've always supported both our daughters equally. Really? Aaron looked around at the assembled guests, who were now riveted. Then perhaps you'd like to explain why you're demanding $50,000 from Rebecca when she's been anonymously paying your mortgage for the past 3 years? A collective gasp went through the crowd. Mom's face drained of color. What are you talking about? Rebecca didn't want you to know, Aaron continued, his voice carrying clearly across the now silent backyard. She set up the payments through a trust so you wouldn't feel obligated or embarrassed. She knew Dad's company was struggling, and rather than let you lose your home, she stepped in without recognition, without thanks. Dad stepped forward, confusion written across his face. Rebecca, is this true? I nodded, my secret exposed. I didn't want you to worry about the house, I said quietly. Aaron wasn't finished. And Madison, did you know that Rebecca paid off your student loans? All $30,000 of them. She told the loan company to inform you it was a program forgiveness grant. Madison's mouth fell open. That was you? But why wouldn't you tell me? Because she didn't want gratitude, Aaron answered for me. She just wanted to help without making you feel indebted. He turned back to my mother, whose righteous indignation had deflated into stunned silence. Rebecca isn't just a finance executive, Mrs. Mitchell. She's a founding partner at Blackwell Partners, one of the most successful venture capital firms in Chicago. The modest inheritance her grandmother left her? She invested it brilliantly. She has a net worth that would make your head spin. But you'd never know it because she doesn't flaunt her success. My secret financial life was being laid bare in front of everyone. And while part of me wanted to stop Aaron, another part felt relieved. The weight of hiding my success from my status-obsessed family had been exhausting. But that's impossible. Mom sputtered. She lives in that small condo, drives a practical car. She's always been so careful with money. Because Rebecca understands the value of money, Aaron replied. She doesn't measure her worth by possessions or status symbols. She uses her wealth thoughtfully, like funding educational programs in underserved communities and mentoring young women in finance. Bradley had moved closer during this revelation. His expression shifted from shock to calculated interest. Madison never mentioned her sister was so accomplished, he said, eyeing me with new appreciation that made my skin crawl. Madison looked stricken, tears welling in her eyes. Why didn't you tell me all this time? I thought you were just getting by, and you let me think that. Would it have mattered? I asked quietly. Would you have treated me differently if you knew I had money? Because that's exactly why I kept it private. I wanted relationships based on love, not financial convenience. My mother had recovered enough to attempt damage control. Rebecca, darling, if we'd known about your situation, we never would have asked for help with the wedding. It was a misunderstanding. No, it wasn't, I said, finding strength despite my physical discomfort. You asked because you've always seen me as a resource, not a daughter. My value to this family has always been what I could provide, not who I am. The extended family and guests shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Patricia looked mortified, likely remembering all the condescending comments she'd made about my corporate job. Cousin Diana gave me a small, supportive smile. My father, in a rare moment of backbone, stepped forward. Catherine, what Rebecca is saying, is it true? Have we been treating her as a resource? Mom floundered and used to being questioned by my father. Thomas, don't be ridiculous. Of course we value Rebecca as our daughter. Then why, he pressed, do we only call her when we need something? Why do we dismiss her achievements? Why did you throw coffee in her face when she refused to postpone her own wedding to fund Madison's? The blunt questions hung in the air. For perhaps the first time in my life, I saw my mother without a ready answer. Aaron guided me toward the door. I think we should go. Rebecca needs to have those burns looked at. No, wait. Madison hurried forward, blocking our path. Rebecca, I had no idea about any of this. About the loans, about your success, about how Mom's been treating you. I'm so sorry. Her apology seemed genuine, but was quickly undermined when she added, but you could have told me you were rich. We're sisters. That's exactly why she didn't tell you, Aaron said gently. Rebecca wanted to be valued as your sister, not your banker. Bradley appeared at Madison's side, his arm sliding around her waist possessively while his eyes remained fixed on me. We should all take a moment to calm down. Family is family, after all. Perhaps Rebecca and I could talk privately about investment opportunities that could benefit everyone. His transparent pivot from future brother-in-law to potential business connection was the final confirmation of what this engagement had really been about. Madison, I said softly, is this really the man you want to marry? Someone who's more interested in my bank account than your happiness? Doubt flickered across her face as she glanced between Bradley and me. We're leaving now, Aaron announced firmly. Rebecca needs medical attention. With that, we walked out, leaving behind a stunned silence and a family forced to confront truths they'd long avoided. The emergency room doctor confirmed what Aaron had suspected, first-degree burns on my face and neck. Painful, but not severe enough to leave permanent scars. As the nurse applied burn cream and gave instructions for care, my phone exploded with notifications. Text messages, missed calls, and voicemails poured in from family members and party guests alike. Madison, I had no idea about any of this. Call me back. We need to talk. Dad, your mother is very upset. Please call when you can. Mom, this is all a misunderstanding. Call me immediately. Aunt Patricia, I had no idea you were so successful, dear. Perhaps we could discuss some investment opportunities for your cousin's new business venture. Even Bradley had messaged, your family situation sounds complicated. Would love to discuss potential synergies between our professional interests sometime. I turned off my phone and handed it to Aaron. I can't deal with this right now. You don't have to, he assured me, taking my hand. They can all wait until you're ready. We spent the night at a hotel instead of returning to my parents' house. Aaron ordered room service and ran a cool bath for me, treating me with such tenderness that it made the contrast with my family's behavior even more stark. I'm sorry I exposed your financial situation, Aaron said as we lay in bed later. I know you wanted to keep that private, but seeing you hurt and humiliated, I just couldn't stay silent. It's okay, I said, realizing I meant it. Maybe it needed to come out. I've been living a compartmentalized life for so long, hiding my success from my family while pretending to my colleagues that I have normal, healthy family relationships. It's exhausting. The next morning, I called my therapist, Jillian, for an emergency session. She fit me in that afternoon, and I spent an hour processing the events of the party. What your mother did was assault, Jillian said bluntly. There's no excuse for physical violence, regardless of how heated an argument becomes. She's never done anything like that before, I said, still trying to make sense of it. Perhaps not physically, Jillian noted. But there's been emotional violence throughout your relationship. This was just an escalation of existing patterns. She helped me work through a plan for moving forward, emphasizing the importance of maintaining boundaries. You're not responsible for your family's reactions to your boundaries, she reminded me. Their feelings about your decisions are theirs to manage, not yours. When I finally turned my phone back on that evening, there were dozens more messages. I called Alicia first, who had already heard about the incident from mutual friends. I told you it would be a disaster, she said, skipping hello. Are you okay? I've been better, I admitted. But maybe this needed to happen. Everything's out in the open now. Your mother threw coffee at you, Rebecca. That's not a healthy family disagreement. That's assault. I know, I sighed. I don't think I'll be seeing her for a while. The next week was a blur of damage control. Madison showed up at my office unannounced, causing a scene in the reception area until I agreed to see her. Why didn't you tell me you were so successful? She demanded, pacing my office. All this time I've been struggling with bills and jobs. And you're what, secretly rich? Madison, I pay my own bills and live within my means, I explained. That's something anyone can do regardless of income level. But we're sisters, she insisted. Sisters share things like this. Do they? Because from where I'm standing, finding out about my financial situation has only made you more interested in what I can do for you, not in who I am. Her expression crumpled. That's not fair. I do care about you. Then why is this conversation still about my money and not about the fact that our mother physically assaulted me at your engagement party? Madison had the grace to look ashamed. Mom says it was an accident, that she didn't mean to throw it at you. Do you believe that? She hesitated. I don't know what to believe anymore. Everything's such a mess. Bradley's acting weird. The Nortons are backing out of helping with the wedding. And Mom's alternating between crying and raging. And how do you feel about all this? I asked, realizing it might be the first time I'd asked my sister about her feelings rather than her plans or needs. Confused. Embarrassed, she paused. Guilty, I guess. I never realized how differently Mom treated us. I just thought. I don't know what I thought. It wasn't a profound apology, but it was perhaps the most honest conversation we'd had in years. Dad called next, his voice hesitant and sad. Your mother is very upset about what happened. I'm upset too, Dad. She threw hot coffee in my face. She knows she went too far, he said, sounding tired. She's not handling all this well, Rebecca. Finding out you've been paying the mortgage, that you're more successful than we realized. It's challenged her whole worldview. And what about your worldview, Dad? Are you okay with how she treated me? A long pause. No, he finally admitted. I should have stepped in. I should have stopped it. I've been letting your mother dominate our family decisions for too long, and I'm sorry. It wasn't much, but it was the first time my father had acknowledged his role in our dysfunctional family dynamics. The extended family chose sides, as families do in conflicts. Some, like Aunt Patricia, suddenly wanted to be my best friend now that they knew about my financial success. Others, loyal to my mother, sent messages about forgiveness and family obligation. A few, like cousin Diana, reached out with genuine concern for my well-being. Meanwhile, my professional life continued. Being a partner at Blackwell meant I couldn't simply disappear to nurse my emotional wounds. I had client meetings, investment decisions, and a team that depended on me. In some ways, the structured environment of work was a relief compared to the chaos of my family situation. Aaron's family, in contrast to mine, responded to the news with appropriate concern and support. His mother, Linda, called to check on me regularly, never once mentioning money or making demands. His father, Robert, offered legal advice about restraining orders, just in case things escalated further. Their healthy family dynamic was both comforting and painful to witness, highlighting what I'd missed in my own upbringing. 3 weeks after the incident, my mother escalated her attempts to re-establish contact. She showed up at my office building, creating such a disturbance in the lobby that security had to escort her out. She sent a lavish flower arrangement with a card that read, "Families fight, but always forgive," as if what had happened was a minor disagreement rather than assault. Madison's social media told its own story. Posts about wedding planning gave way to vague statements about family difficulties and learning who really supports you. Bradley featured less prominently in her photos, and rumors reached me that the engagement was on shaky ground. Through it all, Aaron remained my steadfast support. He never once suggested I reconcile with my mother out of obligation, never minimized the impact of what had happened, never pressured me to make decisions about family contact before I was ready. Family should lift you up, not tear you down, he said one evening as we discussed whether to invite my parents to our wedding. Biological connections don't entitle people to mistreat you. Slowly, with Jillian's help, I began to recognize how my mother's treatment had shaped my own relationship with success and self-worth, why I had kept my achievements private, why I felt guilty about my financial security, why I constantly felt I needed to earn love through usefulness. Breaking generational patterns is hard work, Jillian assured me. But you're already doing it by setting boundaries and recognizing unhealthy dynamics. The hardest part was accepting that reconciliation might not be possible, that my mother might never acknowledge the harm she'd caused or truly change her behavior, that our relationship might be permanently altered or even ended by my refusal to continue old patterns. Some family relationships can't be fixed, Jillian told me during a particularly difficult session. And that's not your failure. It takes all parties willing to change and grow. As painful as this truth was, it also brought a kind of freedom. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a life where my worth wasn't tied to family approval, where my boundaries were respected, where relationships were based on mutual care rather than obligation or utility. For months after the coffee incident, I received a text from Madison that would begin the next chapter in our family story. Bradley and I broke up. Can we talk? Just sisters. No money stuff. I promise. 6 months later, I stood in front of a vintage mirror in the lighthouse keeper's cottage, adjusting my simple lace veil. Through the window, I could see the Maine coastline, waves crashing against rocky shores, the sky a perfect blue. Aaron and I had kept our original wedding plans, refusing to let family drama derail our vision. You look beautiful, Alicia said, helping arrange my dress as my maid of honor. She'd been by my side through final fittings, seating chart disputes, and moments of doubt about the guest list. Is it weird that I feel nervous about Dad walking me down the aisle? I asked. We've talked more in the past 6 months than in my entire adult life before that. It's not weird, Alicia assured me. You're redefining your relationship. That takes time. After the engagement party disaster, my father had finally begun the process of untangling himself from my mother's controlling influence. Weekly lunch meetings with just the two of us had revealed a man I barely knew, one with regrets and dreams of his own that had been suppressed for decades. I enabled your mother's behavior, he'd admitted during one such lunch. I thought keeping the peace was more important than standing up for what's right. I failed you, Rebecca, and I'm so sorry. His decision to attend my wedding without my mother had been a watershed moment in his journey toward independence. Catherine had refused to accept my boundaries and conditions for attendance, specifically, my requirement that she acknowledge the harm she'd caused and commit to respectful behavior in the future. She's your mother, Dad had said during our final discussion about the guest list. But that doesn't give her the right to hurt you. I understand your decision, and I support it. A knock at the cottage door pulled me from my thoughts. It's Madison, called a familiar voice. Can I come in? Madison entered cautiously, looking elegant in the sage green bridesmaid dress we'd chosen together. The past 6 months had changed her too. After breaking off her engagement to Bradley, who had indeed been primarily interested in financial security rather than love, she had moved into her own apartment and found a job in event planning that she genuinely enjoyed. I have something for you, she said, holding out a small box. It's not much, but it's something old and borrowed. Inside was our grandmother's pearl bracelet, a family heirloom I'd always admired. Mom doesn't know I took it, Madison admitted. But Grandma would have wanted you to wear it today. The gesture brought tears to my eyes. My relationship with Madison was still healing, still finding its new shape. But moments like this gave me hope. Thank you, I said, slipping it onto my wrist. It's perfect. I have some news, Madison said, helping adjust my veil. I've been approved for a small business loan. I'm starting my own event planning company. Madison, that's wonderful. And I did it without asking for family money, she added proudly. The business plan, the loan application, everything. I did it myself. Well, with some advice from this really smart financial expert I know. She nudged me with a smile. Our heart-to-heart was interrupted by another knock, this time my father announcing it was time. As he led me toward the lighthouse where 50 of our closest friends and family waited, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and peace about my mother's absence. She's missing a beautiful day, Dad said quietly, seeming to read my thoughts. That was her choice, I replied. We're all making choices about the relationships we want. The ceremony was everything Aaron and I had envisioned, intimate and meaningful against the backdrop of crashing waves. As we exchanged vows, I looked out at the gathered faces, seeing not just the people who were there, but acknowledging the significance of who wasn't. At the reception, held in a tent beside the lighthouse, I was surprised to see Madison deep in conversation with Aaron's cousin Michael, both laughing over some shared joke. It was good to see her connecting with someone for reasons other than status or financial security. Later, as Aaron and I shared our first dance, he whispered, happy. Very, I assured him. It's exactly what we wanted. Even with the family complications, or maybe because of them in some ways. This wedding represents choices we've made consciously, not obligations we fulfilled reluctantly. The evening flowed with joy and celebration, without the undercurrent of tension that had characterized so many family gatherings in the past. Dad gave a heartfelt toast that acknowledged our journey without dwelling on absences. Madison danced with everyone, showing a lightness I hadn't seen in years. As the party wound down, Madison caught me alone near the dessert table. "I need to tell you something," she said, uncharacteristically serious. "I've been talking to Mom." My guard immediately went up. "Madison, no, wait. It's not what you think. I've been trying to help her understand what went wrong, why her behavior was so harmful. I don't know if she'll ever fully get it, but she's starting therapy next week." "Really?" I couldn't hide my skepticism. "Really? I'm not saying you need to let her back into your life," Madison clarified. "That's your decision entirely. I just thought you should know she's trying, in her own way." I nodded, unsure how to feel about this information. "Thank you for telling me." Later that night, after most guests had departed, I found Madison sitting alone on the lighthouse steps, looking out at the moonlit ocean. "Mind if I join you?" I asked, gathering my wedding dress to sit beside her. "It's your wedding. You can do whatever you want." She smiled, making room. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Madison spoke. "I've been thinking about money a lot lately." I tensed slightly. "Oh, not your money," she clarified quickly. "Just money in general. How it shaped our family dynamics. How Mom's obsession with status and keeping up appearances affected both of us, just in different ways." "How so?" I was genuinely curious about her perspective. "You rebelled by becoming super independent and secretive about your success. I rebelled by becoming dependent and entitled." She looked at me with new self-awareness. "Neither was particularly healthy, was it?" I shook my head. "No, but we're learning." "I brought something to show you," Madison said, pulling a folded paper from her clutch. "My first business budget. I was hoping you might look it over, not to pay for anything, just to give me advice, if that's okay." The gesture moved me deeply, not because she was asking for financial guidance, but because it represented a new kind of relationship between us, one based on mutual respect rather than obligation or competition. "I'd be honored," I said, taking the paper. "How about lunch next week to discuss it?" Madison's smile was answer enough. As we headed back to the reception to find Aaron and say our goodbyes, I reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. The coffee incident, painful as it was, had forced open doors that had long been closed in my family. It had revealed truths that needed to be confronted and begun a process of healing that, while incomplete, was genuinely transformative. My wedding day hadn't included my mother, and that was a loss I acknowledged, but it had included authentic connections, honest emotions, and a vision of family based on respect rather than obligation. As Aaron and I departed amid sparklers and well wishes, I carried with me not just the joy of our union, but the peace of knowing I was building a life on my own terms, with relationships that nourished rather than depleted me. Some family relationships might never fully heal. Some boundaries might need to remain permanently in place. But others, like my reconnection with Madison and my father, proved that growth and change were possible when all parties were willing to do the work. The true wealth in my life, I realized, wasn't in my bank accounts or investment portfolio. It was in the authentic connections I'd cultivated, the boundaries I'd learned to set, and the future Aaron and I would build together, free from the dysfunctional patterns of the past. What a journey it had been. From hot coffee in my face to cool ocean breezes on my wedding night. From family chaos to hard-won peace. From hiding my true self to standing confidently in my full identity. Sometimes, it takes a dramatic rupture to create space for genuine healing. My mother's coffee attack had been that catalyst. Painful, but ultimately transformative. And for that unexpected gift, amid all the hurt, I found myself strangely grateful. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know if you've ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members and how it affected your relationships. Have you experienced a dramatic family confrontation that ultimately led to positive change? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics and personal growth. Remember, sometimes the most painful moments become turning points toward a healthier future. Wishing you all the strength to create the relationships you deserve.